Hello everyone. This is Sabrina and you are watching another episode of Coffee with Sabrina. Today I have a really fun guest with me, and I cannot wait for him to share a little bit about who he is and what he does. Jonathan, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm glad that you took all the traffic getting out. It's crazy sometimes, so.
Dallas has, hey, listen, I mean, traffic in Dallas is not nearly as bad as it could be in other places,
Right.
so I can't.
Yeah, I always tell my sister, I stay close to home because I cannot deal with traffic. And now it's like everywhere. You have to deal with it.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell us a little bit about who you are and a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so, let's see. Born on May 5th, well, no, I'm joking. I am from New York City originally, grew up, born and raised there. And then I went to college in Washington, D.C. at Georgetown University. Started my career in restaurants with Hillstone Restaurant Group. Before that, I worked for the Ritz in Paris, did a little stint there, which was really special.
I love when you say that. Oh, yeah, before that, I just worked for the Ritz. You know, it's like no big thing.
Well, it was a short but meaningful time in my life. So you know what, you make a really good point. Yeah, I did a little rotational internship with them for like the better part of a long summer, and then I started working for restaurant groups. So I worked for Hillstone Restaurant Group. They own restaurants that maybe people may know, like Houston's, Hillstone, R&D Kitchen. That's all here in Dallas.
Yeah.
The Honor Bar in Highland Park Village is one of their restaurants too. And I worked for them in two stints for the better part of about 15 years. I was on their executive team on the operations side for 12 and a half of those years. And all sorts of things, right? Hiring, training, all full P&L management, full operations, project management I've learned. I was doing that I didn't realize I was doing when I worked for them. Took a stint with SoulCycle for a year, the fitness company, and I ran kind of everything basically here and West. So Texas, Chicago, and West. I opened the Canadian market for them, which was really fun.
Wow.
Turns out expatriating people, not fun. Just hire local people. It's like paying the taxes, and it's just a mess. And then I worked for Thompson Hotels for a little bit. It's opened back in 2020. What an interesting time to kind of step into a new adventure. We're talking just height of COVID, and really truly, actually, if I rewind a little bit, going through COVID was interesting. It taught me a lot about just business, right? And being really scrappy and being able to pivot overnight. I remember my boss called me on March 15th of 2020. He said, "We will be fully takeout tomorrow." And I said, and that was the last day of indoor dining on March 15th. And I said, and we were 99% dined in. And I said, oh, and I was responsible for all of the restaurants in the Texas market. And I was like, okay, we need to-go boxes. We need to figure out how we're going to staff that. Putting food to go is actually much more difficult than putting it on a plate. Because a lot of it's deconstructed. You don't put the dressing on the salad. You don't put the sauce on the fish or the steak. It's just, it's so different. And so that was actually a really big learning curve. And I think that's why I felt so brave and equipped to go into a new opening in the middle of the pandemic. So I was like, well, we just kind of did that because we basically opened a brand new business overnight. Yeah. And we had a lot of struggles and learnings in that. And we can talk about that later. But gosh, I mean, I'll just never forget the first Friday night we were open. Everyone eats takeout at the same time. I had no idea. So at 7:15, we had 150 people outside the restaurant, all wanting to order at the same time. Nothing. We weren't ready for that.
Right.
The food wasn't ready. But anyway, I digress. The PTSD might kick in.
But you got through it.
We did. You know what? Not only did we get through it, that night, one thing is I really hate a challenge I can't figure out.
Right.
And I hate being told no. And so that night, I pulled the team aside. I said, that fateful Friday, I said, we need to figure this out because we're not doing this again. Yeah. And I probably should admit, but I don't work there anymore. I poured everyone a glass of wine. And I said, what are we going to do? Yes. And we ended up numbering the parking lot like a dining room. So we made every space like a table number. We bought walkie-talkies the next day. I put a table out front and we had people checking in. I mean, we made the parking lot a restaurant. Right. It's the only thing I could think of, and it worked. And for the next several months, that's how we ran our takeout business. Yeah. So after that, I thought, well, what's better than running a restaurant during a pandemic than to open a hotel? So I ran all the food and beverage for the Thompson Hotel here in Dallas. When I got hired, there was no one on the food and beverage team. And we were 3 months from open. No one had ordered any plates, glassware. No one had made any menus, ordered any liquor, beer, wine. Nothing was done.
3 months from opening.
And so I had to not only hire my whole team, but also start getting all of the samples. We call it OS&E, operating supplies and equipment. So all the glassware, the china, the silverware, nothing was to order.
Wow.
And then I need approval on what everyone thinks it should look like. So I had to get the samples and get everyone in the room to talk about what we ordered. We got done.
Crazy. So to back up just a little bit,
yes.
All of this that you're telling us, I know your time in Paris, but was all of the rest of the stuff here in Dallas?
No, that's a great question. Thank you. So when I left, or when I finished, I didn't leave. I left at this time.
Yes.
When I graduated from Georgetown, I started working for Coldstone, and I moved to San Francisco. And then, I did San Francisco, then LA, and then I left California, went to Kansas City, did some openings for the company in Denver, Dallas, and Phoenix, but I still lived in Kansas City at the time. And all of these moves are anywhere from 30-day stints in those cities to up to 3 years. And then I moved to DC, and then to Napa Valley, then back to San Francisco, New York, out to the Hamptons for a brief bit, back to the city, then to Los Angeles, then to San Francisco, and then to Dallas. And I've been to Dallas about 6 years now. Happy to be here, very happy to have not moved across cities in 6 years, because this is the longest I've ever lived anywhere as an adult, besides, growing up. So
hopefully you don't move.
I don't have any intention of going anywhere. Thank you for asking. And then, I did the hotel for a period of time, and really just felt like it was time to move on. It just wasn't, ultimately, it wasn't my full calling. I really love being a part of other people's success and kind of having a little bit more of a background role, and operations is tough. You're on the hook for every night and every weekend and every holiday, and hotels, especially when you serve, we have a hotel, it's never closed.
Right, exactly.
So server doesn't come for breakfast, you're there. That means breakfast starts at 6, someone needs to be there at 5. And that's just a lot. And so I thought it would be really special and rewarding to offer kind of my talents and my strategic thinking to businesses from a little bit more than a ground level, maybe like a 5,000 foot. Not quite a 30,000, because I like to be pretty close to the operation. I think that's the heartbeat of things. That's how things really process. So I started Gramercy Advisors, which is the company I have now. We are a consulting company. We say we're hospitality consulting, but I think it's really important to remember or to note that hospitality is more than what you drink from a glass, what you eat from a plate, or where you rest your head at night. Right. It's really about taking care of people. So really a lot of us are in the hospitality business, in my opinion, without realizing it.
I love that you said that, because, when you advertise that you're a hospitality, more or less, consultant, a lot of times that's the direction everyone goes. It's hotel, it's food, it's restaurants, it's those kinds of things, bars, things like that. But as we spoke earlier, and in all the times that I've, talked to you, I'm thinking, hospitality. But today, hearing you say that, I go back and I think that we are really all in the hospitality business. We all deal with people, and how are we treating them? So that's so important. I love that you're sharing that, but you're also bringing it from that perspective for the audience to hear.
Thank you. And listen, I think what's really special about it is it's not only the end user of your service, your customer, your client, your patient, your guest, right? It's also the people that work with you. Yes. Your human capital, right? How are you treating those individuals? And so, started this company, my obvious clients are just those 3 things: restaurants, bars, and hotels. But I've branched out into a lot of other industries. I now have a medical office I'm working with. And we're working on, shoring up their foundation, making sure that all their process, operations is operations. Much like people say, sales is sales. If you're an expert in insurance, you're an expert in insurance, right? Across many different types of these things, the expertise still applies. So, I have a deep operations background, so what we're doing with them is we're really shoring up the foundation, right? Filling in the cracks, making sure that they have the proper systems in place, SOPs and employee handbooks and processes to run the business so that they can scale and grow. And then we'll work on, what that experience is not only for the employee, and part of the employee experience is that consistency.
Right.
Is the ability to know that I can do this way, I have a place I can go to find out the information, it'll be clear, it'll be honest, it'll be succinct, it'll be concise, but it'll be detailed enough to give me the tools I need, right? And then we'll talk through how do we translate that to the patient? What do we do when we talk to them over the phone? How do we greet them when they walk in the door? What's our email etiquette? What's the office smell like? What is the hospitality in the space when they are sitting in the waiting room? And is there a beverage for them? Is the Wi-Fi clearly accessible? Because think about it.
Right.
We can run behind at any time. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we don't care. Imagine going to the doctor and they say, Sabrina, we're out of time. I can't answer those questions that you had. So like doctors are kind of made to be a little bit behind, and we all are. If we're taking the time to take care, we have a clear opportunity to run behind or off our schedule that we've presented to the person.
Yeah.
But what if we were doing such a great job of taking care of them while they waited that they didn't do this? Yeah. Listen, it seems silly, but make the Wi-Fi password available. I can get some work done, or I can scroll Instagram if I want to, whatever I want to do, right? Give me more than just a bottle of water. Maybe make a coffee station, or have a couple of soft drinks in there, or juices, or gosh, give me one of those water crafts and throw some lemon slices and a cucumber in it. Just make a little effort, right? And look me in the eye when we talk.
Yeah.
It's those little touch points that a lot of times we're so busy getting the task done that I call it throwing away an interaction.
Yes.
Throw it away. You ever go to a restaurant and they have a wait, and you check in with the host or hostess, and they're super friendly. Oh, it's 45 minutes. No problem. Thank you so much. Maybe go to the bar, get a beverage. Maybe you stand outside. Whatever you do to wait, whatever makes you feel good. And then they come and get you, and they walk so far ahead of you on the way to the table that they pass you on their way back to the host desk to take care of the next person. They kind of didn't matter to them.
Right.
You waited 45 minutes.
Yes.
And they threw that interaction away in the span of 30 seconds. We talk about a lot of that stuff, right? Because that's
the little things.
The little things.
The little things is what counts.
Because it's the sum of the whole.
Right.
It's all those little things that make a difference. And all those little things are what endear people to your business.
Right.
Are what make them want to come back, or want to make the choice of choosing you.
You're so right about that. And as you're talking, I remember this feeling that came back from a time in my life. I had a family member with cancer, and while he was going through the chemotherapy, the sessions were long. They were 5, 6, 7 hours. His first one was 9 hours, and so it was long hours. So at the oncology center, there's a coffee station there, the big, huge waiting room. There are puzzles, there are things to do, books to read, things like that. But for several times, and I'm an introvert, or maybe with learned skills of an extrovert, but I'm an introvert, so I'm very quiet. I'll walk with my water, walk with my things. But a few times I saw this little old man walking around with a basket with snacks. And because I am such an introvert, I never paid attention the first few times. I'm thinking maybe he's selling it. I don't really eat snacks. I don't really care for it. But he literally walked up to me one day and he said, "Ma'am, would you like a snack?" And I said, "No, I'm okay." I said, "But are you selling this?" And he's like, "No, I'm just here offering it." I said, "Do you work here?" He said, "No, I come and I volunteer." He volunteered. He brings those snacks. That was not provided by the oncology center. So 2 things, right? Even though, yes, they allowed him to come in, he brought that because he felt good serving people. And serving people who was kind of distraught. There's a lot of stress going on. So that feeling, I've had a great hospitality in a lot of places, but that one is the one that resonated with me when you were talking. So.
And thank you for sharing that. I mean, listen, right? Like, I feel inclined to share a similar story. A very, very, very dear friend of mine. We met in San Francisco. The second time I lived there, not the third time, not the first.
Oh wow!
Lived there
You're
3
very
times.
well traveled in the U.S. I'm sure elsewhere too.
Sabrina, I appreciate that, and I feel so far behind on the travel front. I think I've been to 29 countries, but there are like 160 something of them.
Right.
So like that's not even. I mean, we're not even. We're so behind. But anyway, we were at brunch, and her phone rings, and she ignored the call because it was a number she didn't know. And I think people do that a little bit less now than before. Maybe they do it more now with all the spam calls. I don't know. This is about 8-10 years ago. She listens to the voicemail, and it's a hospital. Her daughter was in college in Boulder, Colorado. Had been in Vail with her friends. It was a Sunday afternoon. They'd been there for the weekend. They're driving back. And I don't know how much you've been in Colorado and know about the weather there, but it's incredibly
beautiful.
And, yes, bipolar, we'll say.
Yes.
One moment it can be sunny and 75, the next moment it can be ice rain, like sleet, snow, slippery. And that's exactly what happened that day. 75 degrees, sunny, all of a sudden, conditions change. And they were coming to a standstill on Highway 70. And long story short, they tried to pull into the median, which was a grassy area, and a truck knocked them back into traffic, and another 18-wheeler truck hit. And her daughter had to be life-flighted from the scene. Horrible. We won't go into the nature of her injuries, but they were severe. She was in the hospital for 2 or 3 months.
Wow.
We got on the plane that moment. I didn't think she could be by herself. So we went home and grabbed laptop and phone chargers, toothbrushes. I don't even think we did that. And we went to the airport. Got the last flight from San Francisco to Denver. And so, obviously, we had no idea what the severity of her injuries were. We got there, we immediately learned a lot. And so, clearly we're going to be here for a while. We were staying in Denver in Cherry Creek, and we had gone to the Lululemon store because we were out of clothes. But we were just sitting in the hospital, and they just seemed to give us something comfortable. Lo and behold, they have nothing in my size, which was hysterical. But that's not the moral of the story. And the lady overheard us talking, the sales associate overheard us talking about that we were spending a lot of time in the hospital, that my friend's daughter had been injured. And she hands me a bag with 3 very cozy, very large scarves. She said, hospitals are so cold.
Yes.
And we don't know what happened, and we're sorry to eavesdrop, but we just wanted to offer you a gesture. That's hospitality. Right? Yes, it costs them something, and I'm not saying that hospitality always costs you, because frankly, oftentimes it doesn't cost you a penny.
Right.
But that she took the time to take care and listen, and get a little curious and offer a gesture with no strings attached.
Right.
That's the kind of stuff. It's just like the gentleman you talked about. Yeah. With the snacks, he volunteers. Probably buys those snacks with his own money.
Yeah.
And just hands them out because he knows that whoever's sitting in that waiting room is probably not having a great day. Because someone they love or they care for is also not having a great day. So anyway, I don't know where that left us in the story, but yeah, that's kind of my career up until now. I've got an older brother and a mom I'm super close with.
Are they here with you?
No, they're in New York City, and that's okay. I've spent most of my adult life living away from my family. By no means am running away from them. It's just where my career has taken me. And they've been wonderful to come visit everywhere I've lived, or I get to New York as much as I can. And one of the beautiful things about owning your own business is I can get to New York now more than I ever have,
Right.
Which is nice because I can work from a lot of places. And I'm lucky enough to have incredible chosen family and my friends.
Well, so I love that you said that little piece about I own my own business now, so I can get to New York, as much as I want to. I want to touch on that a little bit. So that's the greatness of owning your own business. Yeah. You've had your business for about 3 years?
Yeah, almost 4, yeah.
Almost 4, yeah. What were your challenges like?
Sabrina, very honestly, when I started this business, I was still married at the time. I was the main provider to my household. And I've been fortunate that I have not, until that point in my life, suffered from any anxiety or similar symptoms.
Yeah.
And I started suffering from that when I started this business. Wow. And it would get pretty bad. My best friend, his name is Jordan. I would call him and I would have these panic attacks. I would just lay on my bed and look at the ceiling. Yes. And I would call Jordan and Jordan, he's like, you're gonna be fine. What did I do? I don't have a W-2 anymore. I've got a mortgage. We've got these 2 cars. We've got this big house. You know, and that's not a brag. Like that's not. It's just our life. That's like that was just the reality of my life at the time, and I earned that.
Yes.
You know, we were qualified to buy the house. You know, we were living comfortably, and then all of a sudden, I start this business, and I'm like, did I just make the biggest mistake of my life? Because you don't know. Really, you don't know much.
Right.
You don't know where the next, in my case, where the next client is coming from, where the next project or contract is coming from, and you hope that it's coming, and you've networked, and you put yourself out there, and you're trying to do all the things, but you also don't know what you don't know. And, you know, I'll tell you very honestly, when I started my business, nobody would help me. And I just am such a collaborative person, and I think there's room for everybody to win.
Yes.
And so whenever someone asks me what I did to start my business, I can tell you the story, no problem. And I used to reach out to people, oh, tell me what we did. Oh, I have no idea.
I wish I knew you back then.
Me too. Yeah. Because it's like I was asking people and like no one would give me an answer.
Yes.
And so not only was I navigating incredibly uncharted waters, I couldn't get any help, and I had no problem asking for help. So I guess where I'm going with all that is like, listen, like the first 6 months were tough because, and really the first year was tough. The first 6 months was tough because like I was getting business and like things were going. Actually, when I look back, like, for the first year of business, they were going pretty well.
Yes.
But you couldn't have told me that in that time. And you really can't tell me that right now.
You know, so just to kind of segue back into what you just said about no one wanting to help you. As I told you before, the purpose of the show is really for business owners out there, for people who are looking to start a business and don't know how. And the same thing for me. I now have to, when I talk to business owners or potential business owners, I tell them the cost that I paid to learn to be a business owner is just the cost of business. But we are here today to help stop that bleeding, or to help you to get into that next step, because we're here to help. Not like you and me, where we didn't have that help. Everything we know is what we had to research and find ourselves.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that I don't think any of my guests have talked about that in that depth. So I'm glad that you are talking about that today.
I mean, listen, it's important to me. I've had friends start businesses since I started mine, and you don't have to pay me a penny.
Yes.
You know, if you want to know what I did to get started, like I said earlier, everybody can win. I've always believed that. I love to see people win. I especially love people that I'm close to that I love win, right? Because that's just a little bit more personal, it's a little more fun. But when you look around the world at all the different ways you can make a dollar, you can't tell me that there's not space for everyone to have a chance. And I just think it's so vastly important to have a collaborative spirit because, my gosh, like, I'm not you. I can start a career in insurance right now, and I can go to all the best people. I'm never going to be Sabrina. Just like no one's going to be Jonathan. We can have the exact same offering, but how I bring it to life, how I deliver that message. So why be worried about the competition?
Right.
Because they're not you, and what's for you will be for you, right? Listen, you could be spiritual, religious, just believe in whatever maybe will be, whatever your line of thinking is. The fact is, like, everything happens for a reason in some form or fashion. However you get to that answer through whatever other line of thinking, the end result is still there. I think it's important to share and to be willing to, offer mind share and to just really be clear that if you're not worried about someone stealing from you, and listen, people will steal.
Right.
I've had someone steal from me in my business.
Yeah.
And that didn't feel great. And for a hot second, I called my lawyer and I'm like, what do I need to put in? Right. I don't need to put in writing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you just have to move on and learn about that person and leave them where you found them.
Right.
But I think, I'm glad you paused there because it's just such an important hallmark of creating something special is that there really is space for everyone. And listen, competition is a real thing.
It is.
I'm not sitting here saying that.
As you can see, I'm in a building with another insurance agent that is captive under the same company as me.
Yeah.
But we work well together.
And how long have you been in this building?
12 and a half years.
There's my point.
12 and a half years.
Sign on the door, sign above your desk, and that person's desk is the exact same.
Yes.
And look, we wouldn't be here 12 and a half years if something wasn't working.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah. So, You know, I've had the privilege of working on a couple of really great projects. Just to finish that side of the story, I've worked on some projects abroad in London, England, and then my clients are kind of all over the U.S. I've got clients in Washington, D.C. I've done stuff in Omaha. I'm worked on some stuff in Austin, obviously here in Dallas, in L.A. It's just been really special, really rewarding, really humbling that people will trust you.
Yeah.
With, you know, restaurants are low margin businesses, and healthcare is a low margin business these days. And,
Definitely.
you know, and so a lot of times people come to me with a problem. And so when you're already in a crisis place, you have to spend more money before you can see a return. It's hard to convince someone to want to participate in that, right? I think with insurance it's very similar. You're selling something. You're selling the what if. You're selling kind of the if.
Yeah.
The when, really. And so that people have chosen to trust me with that is really an honor, and it's humbling, and I appreciate it. I believe I've added value. You know, I have never had anyone be upset with me, which has been great.
That's good.
So that's something to write home about.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I don't know. That's just been kind of how I've gotten to this place today, and it's I really hope it never changes.
What do you love most about what you do?
Gosh, I love being a part of other people's success. I love seeing the results of their hard work combined with the strategy that we create together. You know, nothing's really a one-person show. I think also on the personal side, flexibility that's provided in my life. You know, a lot happened in my family right after I started this business, and I was able to be there for it all. And
Everything happens for a reason.
it really does, because I have to tell you, Sabrina, I missed a lot of stuff. I was just working. I mean, I used to go. I lived in California for a bunch of like holiday seasons, and holiday season in my brain is like Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Right.
And I would fly night before Thanksgiving on a red eye from California to New York or Baltimore, because my grandparents were in Baltimore before the test. And I would take the first flight out on Friday morning so I could open the restaurant. I did that more times than I can. And I would get dressed in the parking lot at the airport. I'd leave my work clothes hanging up in my car. And it's important to me to show up. But for all the times I did that, there were many other times where I missed out. I just couldn't make it happen. I look back and I realized that I probably should have put my foot down, because the job wasn't going anywhere. You know, priorities are what you make them.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you want to live your life in the rearview mirror, you're going to spend a lot of time with a lot of regret. You know, choose to do that.
But it's your foundation too, right? It built you for who you are today.
For sure.
So, definitely.
But I mean, it's on the professional side, it's just special. It's the best thing I've ever done. I hope it never ends. And on the personal side, I kind of work all the time. It's so different.
Right.
Because it's yours.
It is yours.
And you know, if anyone is wondering if it should do this or when or why, it's like, even my mom. You know, I can't say her age because she would not be happy with that if she ever watched it. But when I started my business, my mom said, and my mom had a great career. She still works because she doesn't want to sit still. She's like, I wish I would have started my business. She has her own business now.
Yeah.
But she's like, why did I wait? She looks at what I'm doing. She's like, why? I should have done that years ago. She even felt that way when she started her own, which is around the time right before I started mine. Yeah. And so, gosh, I mean, there's just so many benefits.
Yeah. But also, it's the encouragement, right? And I hope that this is what my show will do for a lot of people, is give the encouragement for, if you have this bright idea, to take that step, take that leap of faith, trust and believe in your passion. Because if you have a passion for it, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. Once you care about that thing you're thinking about, it's going to work. The resources, the help, the money, all of those things that prevent people from starting businesses, it's out there. You just have to ask, and ask the right people, is what I learned. Yes, you can ask, but you have to ask the right people. Yeah. And so that's why, you know, I have the resources for this, and I love it. But I do want to ask you, if you were to summarize what you do in 3 or 4 sentences so that the audience can better understand what you're doing, can you do that?
Sure. I can get to 5 sentences, but I'll do my best.
You go right ahead.
You know, a couple of things. Primarily, we help people streamline their operations, strengthen their operational outlook from, making sure they have all the right systems to be consistent in their business day in and day out, right? So whether that's having the right people in place, making sure their finances are correctly aligned with what their business is, just having systems to do the same things the same way all the time. We also talk about the people experience, and we really lean into how do you create that? Where are the gaps in what you're offering versus how people are experiencing it so they can be endeared to you to want to come back? And then lastly, or maybe not lastly, but we really focus on understanding the why of your business. What is it that brought this to life? What was the idea that got you to this place?
Yes.
How do we then deliver that message to the people that you want to deliver to? But first, how do we deliver that passionately to the people that help you bring it to the end user of your experience? So we talk a lot about culture and how to care for your human capital, the people that help bring your experience to life. And we teach people, in short, that employee appreciation is more than a happy hour. It's more than a t-shirt.
Yes.
Right? And it's more than what you pay them. It's so much deeper than that. So if I had to summarize it, that's kind of those three pillars of how we bring this to life, and they all relate to each other in some form or fashion. But we first have to shore up your foundation before we can do anything.
Yeah.
And so when we work with our projects, a lot of times, I say we, it's mostly me. A lot of times, what people ask me for is not the first issue we have to tackle. Right. And so part of it's just
get down to the roots, right?
Yeah, part of it's just like discovery and learning where they're at. So it's those three things plus a little bit of a deep dive to understand how we got to where we are right now. Yes. I like to say we start with the end in mind.
Right.
So that we can get you to where you want to be, and we create achievable goals along the way so that we can measure our success and find some wins. Because this kind of discovery can be tough.
I love it. I think that is what makes you unique, right? Because you hear about business consultant or business consultation from so different many people we network with, or they come at it from a different aspect, but I've never heard this one. And I totally love it. I think this is what makes you unique, and this is what makes a business owner want to work with you so that they can create that culture if they don't have it, so that they can create that environment if they don't have it. Because when you're a business owner, you have the mind of, I gotta get this done, and you're going every day, it's the same thing, routine. Not realizing you can throw a little bit of different operational systems in, like you do, and make a whole different experience for your staff, for your clients, for yourself. You yourself would want to come in and walk into your environment. So I love that.
You said something earlier when we were chatting before we got on camera. And without going into what that was, I mentioned to you, you were saying all these things you're thinking about with something that you want to create. I think it's really, really important to remember that there are people that can help you with some of those things, and asking for help is a really beautiful thing. Of course, sometimes it comes with a cost. Of course, we're all in business to make some money, right?
Yeah.
But imagine how much more time you can free up for yourself and for your business to be strategic about more financial growth, more market growth. If you bring someone in who can think about all those things for you, that they matter to you. Yeah. But that's not your actual gift. Exactly. That's not the thing that you think about like automatically that just comes to mind. Let that be on someone else's.
Yeah. Take the load off.
Take the load off so that you can use that bandwidth to do something else.
Yeah.
To grow this other part of your gift that will, 5 to 10x your business in a way. So if you pay someone a fee over here to figure out that experiential part, that's what I probably should have said earlier. Everything we do is just about experience. It's just experiential. Yeah. It's the human experience, like I said at the beginning, hospitality is how we care for people. It's more than the 3 classic forms of a bar, a restaurant, or hotel.
Well, I love it. I totally love it. If you had to share one last thing with the audience, what would it be?
I'm glad you asked that question, and I thought about that a lot when we started talking about this conversation. I want 2 things. I want people to understand that there's so many ways to get to a beautiful end or a beautiful beginning, right? I think this is a beautiful beginning. business, your business, the same thing. Even however many years any of us have been in this. And so what I mean by that is it's really important that we all have conversations like this, because so many people don't believe what they can't see.
Exactly.
And when I went to the restaurant business out of college, my mom was convinced I was going to need all this help and not make much money and not do it. She was so wrong. But she always talks about now the power of being able to see things so you can believe they're possible for you. And the other thing I want to just encourage people to understand is no. Yeah, I don't like hearing no. I don't think anyone does. But I want people to hear the strategy in when someone gives you a tentative answer and learning how to push. Right? Like turning a no into a yes.
Yes.
Turning a, well, I don't think so. Okay, if you don't think so, then I need to make you think differently.
Right.
If you don't shut me completely down with an honest, hardcore, then we're going to keep talking.
I think that was the best part of our conversation. I love that you said, when you said that, it's a think. They weren't sure, it's a think.
Right. If you're not sure, then I want to make you sure.
Yes.
Then I didn't do my job to tell you how to be sure about me, so what can I do?
Exactly.
Because, business ownership is not it's not easy.
Right.
Gosh, it's rewarding. And you just have to push.
Well, I thank you so much for being on the show today. One last thing, if the audience need to reach you for, whether it's for a consultation or just to pick your brain, how can they reach you?
Yeah, so the website is thegramercyadvisors.com. So the word Gramercy Advisors with an S. My email is just my initials, JEG at thegramercyadvisors.com. And then, working on social media presence, but we're at Gramercy Advisors on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn as well.
Okay. And so all of those links will be dropped below also, so I can get that from you.
Great, thank you. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
again.
Thanks for having me, Sabrina.
Yes. Guys, we just wrapped up another episode of Coffee with Sabrina. And like I said, all of Jonathan's information will be below on this link. And I always like to remind you that we are having this recording done at the Brasilia studio here in Mesquite. So if you have any questions, please reach out to us. Until next time, bye-bye.